Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Ardis, and this is the Dr. Ardis Show. And there's tons of information being published right now in the mainstream media about different states and legislators are proposing bills to ban something that supposedly doesn't even exist. And these are chemtrails. So we're going to be discussing today what is in our air, what is in our skies that are creating health problems for so many around the world. Because even if chemtrails don't exist, there is enough crap in our airways around the globe that create and contribute to your suffering, from asthma, allergies, chronic illnesses, even neurodegenerative diseases. So we're going to run through some mainstream articles published about what's in our skies, including chemtrails. And then we're going to actually talk about what are some of the published side effects of these things published in mainstream journals. And then what are a few antidotes? If you didn't know there was smog and crap in the air, if you didn't know that, go look outside. The skies don't look like they did 100 years ago. So if you're worried about what you're inhaling every day is getting into your lungs and getting into your bloodstream, there's actually a few published solutions to most of the toxins found in our air supply. If you are worried and want to improve your own health and vitality from the poisons that are found loaded in our skies and in our air everywhere around the globe, this show's for you. All right, so let's dive in. There's going to be a PowerPoint presentation. Poison in the air, ? Chemtrails is the title of this presentation. Remember, scan this QR code, put in your email, go to the drardisshow.com to download at the resources tab this entire PowerPoint presentation. If you're curious about the research we're about to show you and you want to learn more and where to go find it, and then if you want to know about the doses found in these research studies of natural vitamins, minerals, and plants that are proven to detox the body of all these poisons we find in our skies that are ending up in our bloodstream and in our lungs, go back and reference the PDF. If you want to get notified, put in your email, scan the QR code. You'll get an email about when our free podcast and free PDFs are available on all the different health conditions we're educating the world on. All right, so let's start with this article from MIT's Technology Review, December 24th, 2022, just a few years ago. Look at what they published. Now, they're telling you in the media that chemtrails and poisons in the skies dropped by airplanes doesn't exist, but MIT published this in 2022. This is the title of their article. A startup says it's begun releasing particles into the atmosphere in an effort to tweak the climate. All right, so how are they getting that stuff there? By planes. All right, so here we go. I'll read the subtitle. Make Sunsets is already attempting to earn revenue for geoengineering, a move likely to provoke widespread criticism. Yeah, really. Look at this published article in 2015 by PubMed.gov, which is produced by our government in the United States. Notice they made them retract this article, but it's still sitting there. They don't want you to know this stuff, but they left it, which is great. All right, so this is 2015. This is almost 10 years ago. It is actually 10 years ago. Evidence of coal fly ash toxic chemical geoengineering in the troposphere of our atmosphere. And what are the consequences for public health? Okay, well, if chemtrails don't exist, why are they publishing that coal fly ash is being spread in chemtrails? Coal fly ash is most likely the aerosolized particulate sprayed in the troposphere by tanker jets for geoengineering, weather modification, and climate modification purposes. That evidence is based upon the discovery that, 1, the assemblage of 8 elements in rainwater, so as they're evaluating water coming from the sky in the form of rain, they're finding these 8 elements that should not be there that is found in coal fly ash, which is sprayed by tanker jets in the sky. So they're finding this there. And they're finding experimental leachate are essentially identical in the rainwater at a 99% confidence interval. So when they take the rainwater and they analyze it for coal fly ash, the components in it are 99+% identical to coal fly ash found on the Earth's surface. Why is it in the sky? Evidence indicates that tropospheric spraying of coal fly ash has been taking place throughout the 21st century. That means from the year 2000 to now, It has been going on. On an international scale, 25 years has been going on an international scale with significant ramping up since about 2013. But no public disclosure, no informed consent, and no public health warnings have been published for all the citizens breathing that damn air. This profound implications on environmental health include exposing humans and Earth's other biological life to 1, chemically mobile aluminum, which is implicated in neurological disorders and plant demise of all plants around the Earth. Exposure to toxic heavy metals and radioactive elements. Number 3, preventing rainfall with concomitant loss of food production and habitats. They can control the weather and rainfall and create droughts in specific areas using coal, fly ash dropped in the sky. And possibly contributing to global warming with concomitant Arctic melting. Well, I was told from a Netflix documentary called Cowspiracy that farting cows were to blame for global warming. And we should reduce eating beef to help heal the atmosphere. Oh, really? We already know that since 2013, it's being published that geoengineering is occurring in our skies, contributing to, as scientists have published, possibly contributing to the global warming and the Arctic melting. Environmentalists, you might want to pay attention to what these people are spraying in the sky. Now, this is from Climate Power. You know, I love fact checking. So this is fun. Y'all all do your own research on this. I was excited about this, just to review it. Climate Power published this in 2024. Fact check. Trump let polluters off the hook for putting harmful chemicals into our air and water. So Trump supposedly is letting polluters off the hook, those spraying chemtrails in our skies. And this group is like, we're going to fact check that story. All right, so from Washington, D.C., they claim fact. Trump gutted more than 125 environmental protections, including bans on toxic chemicals known to pose serious health threats and critical safeguards against noxious chemicals in the air we breathe and water we drink. What's the next fact they want to declare? Fact, they say, Trump is allowing corporate polluters to pump chemicals linked to brain damage into our air and water, disproportionately hurting our children. Then they say it's also a fact that Trump rejected a ban on pesticides that, quote, has been linked to neurological damage in children, including developmental disorders in toddlers, end quote. They also published that it's a fact that Trump reversed protections against chemicals, quote, that have been found to cause miscarriages, reduce male fertility, and damage to the liver, kidneys, and immune and nervous systems. Also, they published that it's a fact Project 2025 would slash the EPA's capabilities to protect the public, reducing climate pollution, and end or weaken essential environmental and public health protections. I hope those are not all facts, but for all the Trump lovers, you might want to check that fact-checking story and get back to me. U.S. News reports China is pumping tons of banned chemicals into the air. This was in May of 2019, and look at the skies. If you wonder why skies look like that and fog is showing up around the world that doesn't look natural, it's because of chemicals being sprayed in your skies. Chinese factories are pumping tons of dangerous chemicals into the air despite an international agreement intended to halt the destruction of the ozone layer. I want to repeat this. The New York Post is reporting Chinese factories are pumping tons of chemicals into the air that are destroying the ozone layer. Not cows, not cars, factories. 2 provinces in China have been cited as a source of spike in emissions of a globally banned chemical called chlorofluorocarbon, CFC. Quote from the Washington Post, if it's a problem in another country, we're also going to be suffering. This is a huge problem, says the State Department official to the Washington Post. Here's the NIH publishing Air Pollution and Your Health. Well, what do they have to say about it? Well, in the article, under the section, How Does Air Pollution Affect Our Health? Air pollution exposure is associated with oxidative stress and inflammation in human cells, which may lay a foundation for chronic diseases and cancer. Really? Do you know everybody going into their medical doctors right now today in America in 2025, if you're diagnosed with chronic diseases of any kind, rheumatoid arthritis, congestive heart failure, diabetes, you're going to be told it's 100% caused by your genetics. Okay, Well, the NIH publishes, the National Institutes of Health publish, that air pollutants can cause directly chronic diseases and cancer. In 2013, the International Agency for Research of the World Health Organization classified air pollution as a human carcinogen, not as a plausible or possible one. They said air pollution is a human carcinogen. So it's not just genetics that cause cancer, people. The poisons, the external and internal environment of your body matter. Many studies have established, not a few, many studies have established that short-term exposure to higher levels of air pollution is associated with reduced lung function, asthma, cardiac problems, emergency department visits, and hospital admissions. Exposure to the air pollutant PM2.5 is associated with an increased risk of death. Interesting. A team of researchers partially funded by the National Institutes of Environmental Health Services found that deaths decreased after air pollution regulations were implemented and coal-powered plants were retired. The study data covered a total of 21 years. So as we reduced air pollutants, the deaths caused by air pollution decreased. Isn't that amazing? What about cardiovascular disease? Fine little bitty pieces of particulate matter can impair blood vessel function and speed up calcification in your arteries. Wait a minute, you mean atherosclerosis is not just caused by a genetic predisposition? No, particulate in the air is known to cause calcification of your arteries and impair blood vessel function, leading to strokes, aneurysms, death. Then NIH researchers established links between short-term daily exposure by postmenopausal women to nitrogen oxides and increased risk of hemorrhagic stroke. Wait a minute. I thought strokes were all actually caused by a genetic predisposition inherited from your family. There's also chemicals in the air, pollutants that can cause it too, published by Science. For some older Americans, you'll see exposure to TRAP can result in lower levels of high-density lipoprotein, sometimes called good cholesterol, or increasing the risk for cardiovascular disease. Hold up. That means there's air particles, pollutants in the air that are directly causing cardiovascular diseases, heart diseases, that every single American is being told is blamed on your genetics? Did you know that these TRAP molecules, exposure also increases a pregnant woman's risk for dangerous changes in blood pressure known as hypertensive disorders, which are a leading cause of preterm birth, low birth weight, and maternal and fetal illness and death? What about respiratory diseases? Well, the NIH also publishes in this article that air pollution can affect lung development in a baby and is implicated in the development of emphysema, asthma, and other respiratory diseases such as COPD. Increases in asthma prevalence and severity are linked to urbanization and outdoor air pollution, people, directly. Children living in low-income urban areas tend to have more asthma cases than others. Research published in 2023 tied two air pollutants, ozone and PM2.5, to asthma-related changes in children's airways. In a study of 50,000 women across the country, long-term exposure to PM2.5 and PM10 and nitrogen dioxide, all air pollutants, were linked to chronic bronchitis. You mean chronic bronchitis isn't caused by a deficiency in corticosteroid inhalers? Who does air pollution affect the most? Asks the NIH. Air pollution affects everyone's health, but certain groups may be harmed more. Almost 9 out of 10 people who live in urban areas worldwide are affected by air pollution. That's 90% of all humans living in any urban areas. Well, what about children? Well, the NIH funded a children's health study, and it was looking at the University of Southern California, was one of the largest studies of long-term effects of air pollution on children's lung health. And what did they publish? Higher air pollution levels increase short-term respiratory infections, which lead to more school absences. Children who play several outdoor sports and live in high ozone communities are more likely to develop asthma. Children living near busy roads have an increased chance of developing asthma. The NIH also found that children who were exposed to high levels of air pollutants were more likely to develop bronchitis symptoms in adulthood. Living in communities with higher pollution levels can cause lung damage. Now, I was just in Los Angeles last weekend. You can't look anywhere from a hillside or a cliff or any form of elevation without seeing smog covering the millions of people that live there, including children, adolescents, and pregnant women. Its implications are disastrous. If you grow up in those environments, and even in adulthood, you'll be developing bronchitis, COPD, or asthma. Published by the NIH, by the way. I didn't make this up. Now, this is a research study. You can see top in the middle, 2022. This is published by the Environmental Research and Public Health Group. Health risk assessment based on exposure to chemicals in our air. So what's the health outcomes of people if they're exposed to these very well-documented air pollutants? They published here, 2022, that there are significant differences were noted in personal exposure concentrations between different seasons of the year in the air. But they were testing this in the body of people exposed to these different things in various seasons. And they found that there's different chemicals being sprayed or found in the air in different seasons affecting people differently. So check this out. I thought this was interesting. Significant differences were noted in personal exposure concentrations between summer and winter. It was found that formaldehyde in those different seasons was found higher in summer and winter, formaldehyde. And then p-dichlorobenzene, tetradecane, ozone, and nitrogen dioxide. For these chemicals, other than ozone, there were significant differences in indoor concentrations between the seasons were also detected. Regarding these chemicals in the air, the personal exposure and indoor concentrations were higher in the winter than in the summer for nitrogen dioxide, whereas they were higher in the summer than in the winter for the other chemicals. And this is a graph out of the research study where they actually looked at the summer and winter months and where did they find indoor and in the body elevated levels of these air pollutants. And you can see formaldehyde was much higher in the summer months. If you want to look at benzenes, they were also much higher in the summer months. And then let's go over and look at formic acid. You'll see it was very close, the same in summer and winter months. And then you'll see that it was much higher nitrogen dioxide in the winter months than in the summer. This is just an example. Xylene, look at xylene, much more in the air. Why is that in our air? If you don't know what xylenes are, go look them up. Why would xylenes be in our air more in the summer than in the winter? According to this review for the personal exposure in the study, the high-risk chemicals were acrolein, benzene, and hexane in the summer, and acrolein, nitrogen dioxide, benzene, and formic acid and hexane in the winter. The risk of acrolein were especially high in both seasons. So let's look at some of the nutrients that are published to cleanse these toxins from your body. I mean, what are you going to do? You can't help but breathe. You have to breathe. You're a mammal. You're going to die if you stop breathing. The air is being poisoned around the world by man, either in airplanes or factories. Doesn't matter. Where are all these coming from? Let's look at this research study. It's one of my favorite things. If you're not taking apple pectin powder, I'm sorry. You must not care about toxins. I've talked about apple pectin powder from the time COVID-19 vaccines were introduced on an international scale. I've been telling everybody around the world, you need apple pectin powder. Why? Because in the air of those exposed at Chernobyl, when the Russian nuclear power plant exploded, cesium-137, the ionized form of radiation of cesium, was blown into the air. And people everywhere around Chernobyl for hundreds of miles started developing thyroid. People of every ages, including children. And they found that apple pectin powder was the only thing over an 8-week to 12-week period would actually detox all the cesium-137 they were exposed to in the air they breathed in or on their skin to reverse their thyroid diagnosis in children, babies, and adults. Well, if apple pectin can detox that form of radiation, you don't think I think it will detox chemicals and heavy metals you're exposed to? You better believe it. And it's found in apples. Apple pectin is what you make jelly with. Pectin is what you make jelly with, or jams. It's a sticky substance, and it binds to these poisons, and your body can digest them out of you. So in this study is one of the reasons why I kept highlighting apple pectin for everybody worried about the chemicals in the COVID-19 vaccines called polyethylene glycol 2000, polysorbate 80, because it pulls out cesium-137, which causes when you're exposed to it. The children were separated into 3 groups depending on their cesium-137 loads measured at entry of the study. Overall, 94 children, 46 boys, 48 girls, aged 7 to 17 years were put into the trial. The 31 children of group 2 had moderate levels of cesium burden, and then 30 children of group 3 had a high level of cesium-137, and they received apple pectin powder approximately 5 grams taken with water or milk during meals twice a day for 16 days. Here's the levels in group 1, group 2, group 3. They had a low cesium level, moderate, and high, different groups. The difference in cesium-137 loads between the groups appeared to be explained, at least in part, by the source of the children's food they were eating. So after the Chernobyl explosion, the food these kids were being fed also contributed to the amount of radiation they had in their body. The proportion of children receiving a privately produced diet was statistically significantly lower in group 1 than in other group 2 or 3. Well, what was group 1? Group 1 was the low radio contamination group. If they were being given a private produced diet, their family gave them food. They had less cesium-137 than those that were being given fed food by other organizations or groups, schools, workplaces. That was group 2 or 3. So the food supply was affected. Effective pectin, apple pectin, on cesium-137 load. The average reduction of cesium-137 loads after pectin intake for 16 days was after 16 days, 2 weeks, amounted to 40% in children with moderate radio contamination. There was a reduction of 39%. And then in the group with high amounts of radiation, they saw a 28% reduction in those children using apple pectin powder in just 16 days. The reduction from the beginning of the trial was statistically significant in both groups. Subjective complaints reported by many children. This is what they came into the study complaining of after being exposed to Chernobyl's radiation. The children complained of pain in the region of the heart, headache, weakness, irritability, and nasal bleeding. Okay, such complaints were expressed by 10 children in group 1, 12 children, 39% in group 2, and 19 children, 63% in group 3. In addition to 10 children, or 30% in group 3, the highest, reported permanent fatigue and depressive mood, chronic fatigue and depression. Listen to the next statement I read. At the end of the stay at the lab receiving this apple pectin for 16 days, after 16 days, the children had practically no subjective complaints any longer. What were the complaints? Look, they complained of pain in their heart region, headache, weakness, irritability, and nose bleeding. Then 30% of them in the high radio group or radiation group reported permanent fatigue, chronic fatigue, and depression. At the end of 16 days, the children had practically no more complaints any longer, just supplementing with apple pectin. Well, how did these people get exposed to this stuff? In the air and in their food. What about the cardiovascular symptoms these people complained about? At baseline, abnormal heart sounds were noted in 48% of the children in group 1, and in 84% in group 2, and 90% in group 3. The difference between group 1 and each of the other two groups was statistically significant. And what did they find? At study entry, there was hypertension in the arteries, was present in 9% of group 1, 26% in group 2, and 50% in group 3. So the higher the radiation, the worse cardiovascular hypertension. I just want you to see this. I just want you to see the difference between group 1 and each of the other two groups was statistically significant, meaning the blood hypertension was much more in those exposed with more of the radiation. At study entry, they took the ECG findings, and they saw that those also were statistically significant. The pooled pectin groups, group 2 and 3, exhibited statistically significant reduction in ECG alterations. Their heart rhythm improved the most in those who had the highest amounts of cesium-137 in their body and took apple pectin powder, 5 grams every day for 16 days. So here you will see the reduction before intake and after intake of pectin of the amount of cesium-137 after 16 days only. Group 2, the second highest amount of cesium-137. Group 3 had the highest amount. Look at the reduction in just 16 days. It's pretty miraculous. Pectin intake reduced cesium-137 by 39% and 28% in the groups with moderate and high radiation contamination after just 16 days. All right, well, what about possible antidotes other than apple pectin powder? Well, here we go. You ready? This is poisons in the sky. What you can do about it. Enhancement of natural killer cell activity in your body. Your immune system has natural killer cells that kill cells, viruses, bacteria, fungi, and parasites. Did you know that natural killer cell activity and T and B cell function are improved with vitamin C in patients that are exposed to toxic chemicals? After exposure to many toxic chemicals, natural killer function can be decreased significantly. Weeks or months later, natural killer cell function can rebound to normal levels in some and can be suppressed for a prolonged period of times in other patients. We decided to study the effect of vitamin C on natural killer cells, T cells, and B cell function in patients who had been exposed to toxic chemicals. After the first blood draw, 55 patients immediately ingested granular vitamin C in water at a dosage of 60 milligrams for every 2.2 pounds of body weight. Exactly 24 hours later, this is 1 day later, blood was again drawn for a follow-up study of the natural killer cells, T cells, and B cells function. What happened? Vitamin C in high oral dose, swallowing it, was capable of enhancing natural killer cell activity up to 10-fold in 80% of the patients. Lymphocyte blastogenic responses to T and B cell mitogens were restored back to normal level after vitamin C usage. But T cell and B cell activity went back to normal after 1 day, 24 hours of taking vitamin C. Ask your doctor if vitamin C is right for you. This is renal toxicity of heavy metals like cadmium and mercury that are in our air, and their amelioration with ascorbic acid in rabbits. So now they're going to take rabbits, they're going to expose them to cadmium, which is what's in all of your nanotech in the air, quantum dot technology, smart dust technology. As you inhale these, they get into your bloodstream, get into your kidneys, and cause renal toxicity. But they're going to tell you here and show you here that vitamin C totally gets rid of the toxic effects to the kidneys of cadmium and mercury. Mercury is also found in your. So if you're worried about it, you might want to use vitamin C. The administration of heavy metals alone and in combination has altered the blood creatinine level significantly in exposed animals throughout the experiment of cadmium and mercury exposure. On day 14 of the experiment, the kidney's creatinine level was found significantly raised in cadmium and mercury exposed alone in combined groups. However, this rise in blood level was decreased in vitamin C treated and prevention groups, but remained above that of the unexposed animals. So I want to highlight here what vitamin C did. You'll see cadmium levels. Cadmium is CD, Hg is mercury. You'll see how high that was after exposing those animals, and then they gave them vitamin C. And you can see how it just dropped all the levels of cadmium plus vitamin C, mercury plus vitamin C. It just started dropping all of those. Then you'll see the level of creatinine level, which if your doctor's looking at creatinine levels on your blood work, that means they're looking for elevated kidney stress or disease. And you see the bottom one is the level of creatinine levels with vitamin C and cadmium and mercury. And you see the creatinine levels continue to drop when you add vitamin C. At the 28th day, cadmium and mercury showed the highest significant difference, while the combination of these metals showed a significant difference. Compared to cadmium, the prevention of cadmium plus vitamin C showed the highest significant difference, and the treatment of cadmium and vitamin C showed a significant difference. As compared to mercury, the prevention of mercury plus vitamin C showed a higher significant difference, and the treatment of mercury and vitamin C showed a significant difference. The level of cystatin C in both prevention and treatment groups for cadmium and mercury and vitamin C had shown a significant difference. Oral administration of cadmium, mercury, and vitamin C for 28 consecutive days, that's 1 month, elevated the level of uric acid also. It showed the highest significant difference as compared to cadmium groups. Treatment of mercury and vitamin C also showed the highest significant difference. Prevention of these metals with vitamin C showed a significant difference as compared to cadmium and mercury dosed animals. I just want you to see that when you add vitamin C to anybody that inhales mercury or orally ingests cadmium or mercury, which is found in your air and skies and in your cosmetics, vitamin C can help you lower all of these reactions to it. Our results indicated that the pre-treatment of rabbits with vitamin C had produced marked protective effects against the cadmium-induced kidney and biochemical alterations Based on the results, vitamin C seems to have a protective mechanism in renal toxicity. Please, for the love of God, take vitamin C every single day. It's so cheap, so easy to take. Everybody, I recommend 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C every day. It doesn't matter what drugs they give you, what nanotech you're exposed to, what air particulate you're going to be exposed to. You have less worry and anxiety about future kidney failure, which, if you haven't realized, is a massive problem. Do you not have friends or know people that are on dialysis? Dialysis clinics are all over this country. Warren Buffett has made billions of dollars off of kidney failure from drugs and air pollution. Vitamin C protects the kidneys. Taurine protects cisplatin-induced cardiotoxicity. Okay, listen. Okay, taurine protects cisplatin-induced heart failure and heart disease. Do you know what cisplatin is? I put a little question mark up there. Thank you, Braden, my son. He put that question up there for us. What is cisplatin? I bet you don't know. Cisplatin is a drug given to cancer patients. So now that you know that, did you know cisplatin, the drug for cancer, causes heart failure and heart disease and heart toxicity? Did you know that taurine protects you from the side effects of this? And did your oncologist tell you to take taurine when they gave you cisplatin? Now, to protect you from having heart failure issues due to that drug? Cisplatin, brand names, Platinol, Platinol AQ, Platinol, Chemoplat, is a drug used together with other cancer drugs to treat bladder cancer, testicular cancer, or ovarian cancer. There it is. Ask your oncologist if taurine is right for you. Taurine abates the cisplatin-induced reduced oxidative species generation in the heart of mice exposed to cisplatin. Taurine inhibits cisplatin-induced ER stress-induced apoptosis. These are all the benefits of taurine and how it blocks heart failure created by the drug. Taurine inhibits cisplatin-induced apoptosis in heart tissue by downregulating the activation of caspase-3 and PARP cleavage. All oncologists out there, please, for the love of God, please protect these individuals' hearts when you give them this drug and tell them to take taurine. It blocks all these detrimental effects. Administration of taurine significantly blocks the overexpression of all of these inflammatory things caused by cisplatin-exposed heart tissue. In a dose-dependent manner, it works. So the more taurine, the better. Here's the evidence here. You'll see the underlying taurine, cisplatin groups. And you'll see as you continue to increase cisplatin, their CK, cardiovascular markers, continue to go down. Taurine reduces cardiac dysfunction in mice with cisplatin-induced cardiac injury. Just so you know, if it happens in a mouse, it happens in a human. And there it is. Here's the evidence that taurine drops it. You'll see TAU-CS or plus CIS. That is taurine plus cisplatin. And all of these markers in the blood are improved after taurine is given to individuals on cisplatin also. Cisplatin-induced cardiac tissue is ameliorated or resolved with taurine. Incredible. Mice receiving only taurine showed similar radiating patterns observed in the control, meaning those that didn't get cisplatin, thus indicating that taurine itself at a dose of 150 milligrams per every 2.2 pounds was imposing no damage on cardiac tissues. So taurine doesn't affect the heart, but cisplatin does and protects the heart from it. It reduces cardiomyopathy caused by a reduction in superoxide dismutase. Remember, you can download this entire PowerPoint presentation to learn more about how taurine prevents cardiovascular failure caused by cisplatin given to patients. Look at this at the bottom. However, simultaneous treatment with taurine significantly mitigated cisplatin-exposed cardiac tissue compared to only cisplatin-treated groups. Taurine blocks a number of pro-inflammatory cytokines, chemokines, and expression of adhesion molecules in cisplatin-induced heart injury. Ask your oncologist if taurine is right for you. This is all the ways it works. Last statement, reflecting the anti-inflammatory potential of taurine. All right, now let's dive into the Journal of Hazardous Materials. Did you know that EDTA and citric acid, it has benefits against arsenic poisoning? How about that? EDTA. Now, I'm trying to keep our PowerPoint shorter. You now know there's evidence of chemtrails and poisoning in the skies. I'm showing you a few published antidotes, apple pectin powder, vitamin C. You're now seeing EDTA and taurine. EDTA remediates the toxic effects of arsenic poisoning. This is apple pectin powder at the Dr. Ardis Show, 1,400 milligrams. Remember, in the study with radiation from Chernobyl, they used 5,000 milligrams a day, 5 grams. So do the math. Apple pectin powder for poisons. I actually believe this dose is enough for everybody daily to prevent and detox the chemicals that you're all exposed to. As we showed you, even during seasons, those chemicals are being altered and changed in your air. Here's our Immune C product, vitamin C at 1,000 milligrams. That's found in 3 capsules. And then our taurine product, 500 milligrams a day. If you're going to use taurine, 1 capsule should be enough for prevention. If you have neurological symptoms, seasonal allergies, or lung conditions that are exacerbated by pollutants in the air, notice your meteorologists are even actually telling you in the news what's the level of allergens and pollutants in the air every day. We're all exposed to this stuff. So if you have issues on those days highlighted by your news and meteorologists, please take taurine and take an added dose. Do 2 capsules a day on those days to help detox these poisons from the air and from your lungs. This is our EDTA. I recommend all those to take this Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the morning. 2 dropperfuls orally, morning, afternoon, and evening. EDTA, fabulous at removing toxins and heavy metals from the body. Do it 3 times a week, should be plenty. You're going to see miraculous results. Bee pollen is also published to help detox these chemicals from the body and from the blood. This is Jana's All Natural Bee Pollen. I do recommend it and I do promote it, and we are affiliates for Dr. Jana's. And you can find her products at janasallnatural.com. Remember, you can scan the QR code. I look forward to seeing you next week on the Dr. Ardis Show as we destroy another narrative and explore controversial topics in health around the world. I'm Dr. Brian Ardis. We will see you next time at thedrardisshow.com.